Here it is, what you've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen, the Ray Hunt Show. Now, over the years I get asked a lot of questions about targeting rays and general equipment and different things. So what I've done is took all the questions on board and put them together in this show. So what we're going to do is talk equipment, baits and products, venues, general information about the rays, and we're going to start off with my favourite, the blonde. So let's get into it. So here I have in front of me a series of products that I use for targeting ray. So, the blonde ray. Now, if we talk tackling up first of all, so we're thinking rigs. Now, a lot of guys will tack up a lot different. So for targeting rays, most of the time you can use up and over rigs, pulley drop down rigs. I would say that would be your main 3 rigs to be using. However, a lot of guys have had them and caught them on lots of different things, running ledgers, etc. Now, I was having a conversation with the other day with a guy on the Facebook page, and he said, Andy, how come you always show guys hard to tie rigs, and why not show them some basic easy rigs to use? And I questioned it, to be honest. I said, well, what would you recommend? And one of the answers I had back was the 2-hook flapper. Now, if you're making these rigs properly, a 2-hook flapper is a lot more difficult to tie than a pulley rig, okay? And the pulley rig is not a lot different than a pulley drop down rig. Now, it's to me, and putting it across to people, and I wish I had someone to educate me a little when I first started out, because when I first started out, clipping my bait down wasn't something I'd done at all. I mean, I'd get to a thing, 2-hook flapper, paternoster, whatever, fly the bait out. Most of the time, swinging around the trace, it'd be tangled up when it's in the water. Now, I think clipping your bait down is common practice, especially when you're fishing, okay? It enables you to clip your bait down, have it nice and compact when you're about to cast, and as it goes through the air in flight, it's more aerodynamically, so it will go straight off and cut through the air a lot easier, and it will get you better distance, okay? So when I put across rigs to people, I like to put across rigs which I know if they use and tie correctly and cast correctly, they will be able to catch fish on it. Now, I know there's a lot of guys, I remember when I first started out, you're fishing, you're going out, you're chucking a bait in the water and stuff like that, you're not clipping your baits down and that, and it does show with your fishing. Some people find it hard to go out catching. Now when I first started out, it was very hard for me. Dogfish, whiting, mackerel and stuff like that, which will pick up literally anything. Now, the rays and bits and pieces and bass and stuff like that, and I think it was a lot, looking back now, on how I was fishing, how I was tackling up my fishing. Now, my word of advice to anybody who's starting out fishing would be to tie rigs properly. That's one of the best things to learn. And if I'm going to educate someone, and I'm going to be put this for people to learn how to do things and that, I want them to pick up it and start right from the start, and then move on and progress, rather than staying and saying, oh, I wish I'd done that 10 years ago. Exactly what I would wish someone said to me 25 years ago, Andy, this is how you do it. I'd have been like, ideal, it catches me more fish at the end of the day. Now, if you're doing a 2-hook flapper, and it's done correctly, it will basically clip down. A bit like Portsmouth loop, but without obviously the big loop on the bottom. But everything should clip down accordingly. Sometimes I use it for place fishing, 2-hook flapper, but I don't use it for a lot of ever my type of fishing, to be honest. So what I'm going to go through is the basic rigs. Now, if I'm fishing a lot of different areas, so if I'm fishing the Bristol Channel, for example, I'll always tend to use a 100-pound shock leader, okay? And this is what I'm going to show you now. So if I was fishing for smalleyes on my coast or up the channel or anything like that, and I know I was in an area where I didn't have a chance of catching a blonde, that's for ultra cast, £80 line. More than sufficient for catching the fish and landing specimens on it. The £80, lovely line, lies out perfectly with your baits, and it's brilliant for your shock leader, and that's what I would use for my smalleyes and that. But because I'm targeting the blondes, they're a lot bigger, and you get choppy seas. You want something you know is not going to give in when you're holding it up, and you've got them on the side of the rock, and the rays on the surface swell up and down below the bottom, and you're trying to control it, ready to try and land the fish. I want to know that I'm using everything I'm using is not going to give in on me. So I would always use for my rig bodies the Rovex 10 times shock leader in £100. Absolutely bulletproof. It is strong as you would like. It's really, really good stuff to be using for your rig body. So that is what I'd use for my rig bodies. Now, for my trace line, and I'm going to show you a little secret here, guys. This is the Icon Power Monster. This is an initial catfish line. A lot of the guys use this over in France and different places for targeted catfish. But this is the same diameter as that, okay? So it's 0.80. The difference is, this is 125 pound in test strength, around about that anyway. So for what you get is the 0.80, which is absolutely ideal, what I love, but it's very, very strong, and I mean very, very strong. If you're targeting the likes of conger and taupe, spur dogs, not at all. But if you're targeting rays, this is perfect, really good. But it's very hard to get hold of, and it's something I stock up on a lot. It's fantastic stuff, it really is, guys. I'm a bit, I don't know, so I see a lot of guys use different colour trace lines and stuff. If I'm fishing in daylight, I've got to be honest, I wouldn't use that. I'd use that with something else. I'd probably use that with another £100. I don't like having my rig body the same as my trace line, just because I find sometimes it will tangle a lot, especially with a pulley rig. On a pulley drop down a bit different, but the Variverse £100 I tend to use as well on my rig body from the £100 trace, and I'll probably use that as my rig body, and I'd use a £100 Variverse, which is clear, as my trace line, which is going to drop down on the pulley drop down rig, just because I feel more confident with clear traces when I'm fishing in daylight. It's just one of the things I've always done, and that's what I do. But any nighttime fishing, that is what I'd use all the time. I've had some fantastic fish on that over the years. I actually had my personal best blonde this year of £27 on that stuff right there. So what I'm about to do now is show you a basic rig. Now this is a rig I've used throughout the years mostly. I am a big fan of the pulley drop down rig, but this is the rig what I'm about to show you now, which I used this year to catch me the £27 blonde. So first of all, I like to use these little rig winders. They're perfect for holding your rigs, and I'll go through this pulley rig with you now. So to start the business end off, if I start off a bit at a time, so as you can see there, that is a 7.0 Uptide Extra Coxswain Raw hook. Very, very sharp, very, very strong, and I've found that by using that compared to some of the older hooks I was using, I've not lost a blonde on that. I've lost fish on past hooks before over the years by the hook coming out, especially like the Mantis style hook, and that is, I find it, especially with blondes, I've never lost a fish on that hook. So as you can see there now, I've got the Monster Power trace line, but I've also got a bead in between. Now we'll go through that bead a little bit more in a minute, but this is actually a rubber bead which I actually purchased from Euro Angling. It's a Rovex rubber shock bead, and they're absolutely cracking. And the reason I use that is, if you come up to the top here and you get your top hook, pennel hook, and you wrap it around, if that was to unravel with the fish on it, so to speak, and it come down like that, as the fish come down on your bottom hook, it cushions the knot, so it will stop the force of that hook, of that top hook coming down and damaging the bottom hook, which obviously will stop it. If that was damaged and that come off, that hook would go and you'd lose the fish. So that's the reason I use it. Now the next hook I like to use is this one here. See that there? That is a 6.0 octopus hook from the Coxswain Raw range. Now that is an exceptional hook. It is a fantastic hook, it really is. I had my turbot on that last year, and I also had the £27 blonde on it this year, and I find that it's very, very strong. And what I like about it, using it as a pennel hook, is the top of the shank is turned over, which I like. I always like the views of pennel hooks like that. It is awesome hook, boys and girls, honestly it really is. So as I unwind this now, as you can see, I've got around a 5.5 foot trace going down exactly the same. So when that's stretched right out, I've got around 9, maybe 10 foot of trace line, probably more than that. We're talking maybe 11 foot altogether, which as that's laid out on the seabed and laid out properly, that is perfect for targeting these blondes. Now, on the bottom, no matter what, I always use this little component, right? This is called an imp from Breakaway Tackle, and it's an exceptional item to be using. This little bit here, which will cost you a few quid, will enable you to use and clip your baits down, especially with a pulley rig. Now, if I was to use just a normal clip and tie that lead on, okay, my baits would fly all over the place, and this is a very, very big tip for all you novice anglers out there. It really is. If you don't want to do that, these are perfect, but they're expensive, more than expensive than the plain lead. But having said that, these are by far the best leads available on the market. The Breakaway, they've shown the test of time. But if you're first starting off, you're getting a few bird's nest, you're cracking off, you know what I mean, you get into terms with the casting sort of side and stuff. I wouldn't recommend going into that as yet. I would be going for normal weights and that. But this is where it comes in with the Breakaway side again. That there enables you to clip that on. Guys, I do apologise for the rest of you who obviously know a lot about this, but at the end of the day, this is what the show's all about. It's education to guys and helping them try and catch a few blondes. And that there is perfect, okay? It's very, very simple, but it's very, very effective. And I can assure you this, if you go down to your local field, okay, and take a rig, and take a bait, take a squid, attach a squid to it, and cast, okay? Don't clip it down first. Just do the same rigs twice, one without a rig, see how far that went. Do exactly the same again, and then see that again. Do it 10 times. I guarantee you the clip down bait will travel further. It just goes better in the air. So, as you can see that there now, as we go through a bit later on, with the bait side of things, that will clip on, like so. And when you cast, it will go like that. But the good thing about that then, is when that hits a seabed, that will clip off, flick your trace out, and you'll be left with a free-flowing trace line just bobbing away in the tide. And that is very, very important. I find a lot of the ray fishing I do, tide is a big thing. When the tide slackens off, the fishing starts to slacken off. When you've got a lot of tide there, that half the time is when the fish are coming on, because the fish are coming home and in to feed. And by clipping your baits down, guys, honestly, it's a big, big thing. And as I said, it's common practice, to be honest. It's something which you start to do at the beginning, and as you progress through, obviously, it's just a natural fishing skill which everybody should be doing in my eyes. If you're fishing for flounder and fishing in the estuaries and stuff like that, fishing with fishing areas where distance isn't required, you get away with the running lead or whatever you want to use. But honestly, guys, my biggest bit of advice to anyone is clip your baits down and get them out there. So that's basically the first rig. One of the other bits and pieces I use is, as I was talking about earlier on, this is a cracking little bit. Now I've got rig wallets, what I use as well, and you've got loads of rigs in there all ready to go for those sessions and stuff like that. But if I'm going long hikes up and down cliff faces and stuff like that, and I'm areas where it's fairly clean ground, this weighs nothing. I can make 9 rigs up, 10 rigs up, all fit in there, jobbed over. That is perfect. That's what I've got. That's what I know. That's what I need for a session. If I'm going down certain places where I know I'm not going to lose leads, you probably get away with 4 leads. Take 4 down just in case you lose 1 or 2. Half the time you're coming back up with the same leads and you're coming up with the same rigs, nothing like that. But if I'm going somewhere over a longer session and I've got a chance of maybe losing a bit of gear, this is what I take with me. It's a little pot, and I've got swivels, I've got imps, I've got rig clips, I've got beads, I've got rotten bottom clips. I've got all the components in that little box there, what I need to make more rigs when I'm out. So all the time I'm going to have shock leader, okay? Even if I'm going on a thing, I'll take the £100 shock leader if I'm going after blondes. I always do. So at the moment I've got a little pile there, like that. So it's a bit lecture nothing. With that on top, like that. And that is all I need to make my rigs. I've got everything there, okay? And it's just simple. If I'm going anywhere else and I know I might need a few more rigs, or might need this and might that, and I don't know, this is what I'll take. I always take a rig bollock. Guys, these are fantastic. I mean, you can make all your different rigs and set them up through there. You've got the back pockets for storing your packets of beads and your swivel packets and stuff. It weighs nothing. In the side of your bag, it's job done at the end of the day. So there's that one. So we're going to go through and talk about now some of the main lines on that I use. Now, over the years, people that's followed me will know I was always a big fan of the Ultimate Distance. I really was. And before that, I was using the Dower Tournament. I had to go on the hard skin, and I also the titanium, which is the Suffolks back then, which is now the Rovex now. And out of all of them, that there is, it's in my eyes, is a line for champions. It really, really is. It's very, very strong. It casts superb, and it's very, very supple, and I absolutely love it. I mean, it's just a cracking line. I like the colour of it as well. I used to be a big fan of the Sport as well, but I've also started like the high vis line from the Assel range as well. It's a very nice line, but out of all of them, bulletproof every time. It just everything I look for in a line, and it does the job. And for me, confidence in the line is a big thing. Now, shock leader knots. There's a lot of different shock leader knots everybody uses, and one thing I found very, very strange in a way, but for all the different type of anglers I've met over the years, top rods, match anglers, all things, the different shock leader knots I see people using, and you would always think that someone would like to use the Bimini twist or the spider itch knot and that. There's a lot of knots out there where these guys have developed and they know they've got total confidence in. Now, for me, for an easy knot to use, the spider itch knot, okay? I can tie it in the pitch black if I needed to. I could tie it anywhere, and it's job done. It's bum 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 bum. Now I know Mr. Cook up in Wales. He's a big fan of the Bimini twist. I remember him sitting down with Rob York and Rob York going through how he tied the knot, and he still uses that to this day. Now the Bimini twist is an absolutely superb knot for targeting big fish. It's got the spring in that. It's absolute. But if you're out in the night time and you're on it can be an absolutely pain to tie. Spider itch knot I've got total confidence with all times, and it's very, very simple to do. So what I'll do while I'm here, we will show you how to do it. So what I'll do is we'll do it on a leader. We'll do it on a line here, shall we? So I'll set the drag onto that a minute. Okay, whoops. He's a bit tangled up there, boys and girls. And he pulled the rig off. There he is. There he is. Okay. So it's done very easily. So what we do is move this out of the way a minute. So we've got the line like so. So basically, you've got the line from one end. So that's a tag end this end. And basically, I'm just going to make a loop. Okay. Loop like so. So what I'm going to do now with this loop, I'm basically going to bring back. You can make this while you're practicing as long as short as you want. So I've got maybe 12 inches there in a minute. And then what I'm going to do is go over and make another loop. See that? So while I've got that loop now, what I'm going to do is come around my finger once and press it, twice and press it, 3 times. And on the 3rd time, I'm going to come underneath and pull it back up through the loop, so it will come down on itself. So you come around once, twice, 3 times. See that? I'm going to nick it, and then what I'm going to do now is pull it down very slowly but evenly. It's very important that this knot comes down evenly, so pull it like that, so, and then like that. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the start of the knot. What I'm going to do now is snip the tag end off, as so. Okay, so what you've got now is a loop. Okay, so this is where the next part comes in. So what I'm going to do now, this is what I use for my shock leader, and even if I'm after blondes, I use £80 shock leader. If I'm only at the £100 on my rig body, never on the shock leader, it will cost me distance, and that's not something that I don't want to do. So basically what I'm doing now is put it in the loop around like so and hold it like that. Now there's a lot of different ways you can do this, because I know some guys will loop it over like that and pull down through. I don't tend to do that. All I do is this. I come around the line from the loop end, so the loop's there, put it around like that, and I come around once, a whole lot around both lines, twice, 3 times, 4 times, okay? Just like that. Now you can see my finger there now with the line where we've got the loop in. I'm going to put that tag end back down through the loop and pull like so. Then slaver, and now you've got a point. You can see that where the knot in the middle, one's longer than the other. It's very important at this stage. You basically pull on both sides and behind each knot and pull tight. Okay, as you can see that now. That's very, very strong. And that is all you need to do. So what I'll do now is cut the tag end, and that is what I use. Very, very strong, and will land nearly anything you want to catch on it. So I've got my reel. How much shock leader do I put on is a question you'll ask. Now, shock leader is vitally important for targeting any fish, especially on the beach, and especially when you're fishing around anyone. It is common practice. That's one thing I want to put across to anybody. If you're not using the shock leader, you need to be. And for the sake of going down and paying less than a tenner for one of them, or you can get them for less than a fiver. There's loads of different ones on the market, guys, from cheap to expensive. And to be honest, the way to look at it is this. If you've got a 5-ounce lead and you're casting that there, you need a minimum of a £50 shock leader. So it's £10 in shock leader strength for every ounce of weight. Having said that, if you know how to cast and you're creating power into your casting, I would always recommend them using nothing but a minimum of an £80 shock leader. It's never worth it. If that comes off and hits anybody at speeds, even with a normal cast, it could kill them. I mean, it's that dangerous. You see these when you're tournament casting, going flying through the air, when you're hitting over 200 yards, even 150 yards, whatever you're hitting, and they're going straight in the ground. If that hits someone in the head, that is going to cause serious damage, ladies and gentlemen. For the sake of learning how to do what I just showed you, is definitely a must. Okay, so if you're not using a multiplier and using a fixed spool, exactly the same again. It's easy. So what you're going to do now is on your rig, you're going to tighten up this drag. Turn the drag off. So yeah, so I'm coming around to the knot now. So I've come around the reel once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Right, I've come around 5 times. So at that point, that'll be on your rod. So what you need to do is basically go up to the top of your rod and back down to your reel. Okay, and that is more than sufficient for you to cast. It will take the initial power off the main line when you're casting to stop it from cracking off and the line powering off and your leg going all over the place. So what I'd normally do is I set a rod. As I said before, I'm very thing about this. With my rod, it's got to be exactly the same size every time, so I know it's not going to affect my casting. I have mine 4 times around, but just because I'm doing this now, I'm going to make it a bit longer. And to be honest, I know a lot of anglers will do it like this. Paul Lynch, one of my mates, he's one of them, he'll sit there on the thing and just go like that, or a whole thing like that. No, I know that's more than enough at the moment. I'm just going to go one more, and I know that's it. So I'll clip there like so. Now, a lot of people will tie their rigs right onto that. Don't do that, guys. Not at all. What you want to be doing is getting one of these little Gemini link clips, like so, and just basically going around. And what I do is I go around, put my finger in between, once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. I'll bring down like that. That ain't going anywhere, okay? That ain't gonna go anywhere. You can clip your lead onto that, tighten up. Perfect, that's your lead attached. The good thing about that then is when I'm ray fishing, I'm gonna put this onto the line a minute for you while I'm sat here. when I'm ray fishing, I want to know that I've got rigs ready to go. So when I bring one in, if I've got a fish on or a dogfish or something like that, I can go straight back out. And that's very important to me, is that I've got a bait in the water at all times. Because what you'll find is, if you haven't got one ready, by the time you bait up and that, you've got your rod out the water sometimes for maybe 15 minutes. If you get a fish on that ever rod while you're baiting up, you're bringing that one in. So it could be at some point within the session you've got no rods in the water, and that's not what you want. You want rods in the water all the time. So having rigs ready made and ready to go and baited is another thing. I know some of them, especially when I first started fishing, I was fishing one rod, and you start getting into fishing two rods and stuff. And in between, obviously waiting for your bites and stuff like that, you're getting ready for the next cast and so on. Match anglers take it another level. They're just where I like to get everything ready, sit back and enjoy my session. And there's nothing more relaxing than sitting back watching your rod tips, hand over on a nice night, stars shining down. All you can see is your rods keeling over in the tide. Sometimes it turns into a better night and the reel starts screaming off. Other nights, that's fishing at the end of the day, guys. So that's basically gone through now the rigs, line and general equipment. So what I'm going to go through now is the leads. Now, as I said before, if I'm fishing clean ground, I will use the breakaway leads. So the 5, the 6 and the 7 ounce. I find they're just cracking. They do everything I need, and I normally attach them on and hit them out. Just something what I've always used, and I love to bits. But if I'm anywhere where I have chance of losing a fish due to the lead being fixed, and I'm going to use a rotten bottom with the breakaway again. No, Gemini, sorry. Breakaway link clips. So I'll attach that onto the top. That there, I will use Seacast leads. Okay, so Mike and Rob at Seacast, they do the 5, the 6 and the 7 ounce leads. And basically what I'll do is I'll get 12-15 pound line, tie it onto the end of that, put 3 or 4 knots halfway up onto the end, and I'll tie that to my lead, so that's attached. And then I'll basically clip that in so, and then I'll bring that on, and I'll put that onto that. And then when that hits the water, as you're about to see now, I'll bring that up, the lead comes off, okay? But the lead, the reason I use 15 pounds mainline is if I use lighter, I lose my lead every time. When I know I'm using 15 pounds, I know that I'm going to get the lead back. So unless you get into a real good snag, you're going to get your gear back every time. It's very important to me. At the end of the day, if I've had it before where I've been fishing last year, for example, fishing Lilstock Reef, Lilstock Beach, and targeting smoothhound. Got there with low water, and Salim was with me, a local guy. Took him up there, so I've gone for a smoothhound, and we had nothing except from a small fawnback ray over the low. Started fishing back, a couple of dogfish, a couple of straps. Got up to the top of the tide. Tide started going. The tide starts moving from right to left as it's starting to turn now. Rod starts on over, and laziness really. I thought to myself, I'm gonna attach a fixed lead, and as I hit the fixed lead, I went off like that, and off it went. Should have gone for a rotten bottom because there's a lot of boulders there. You're fishing at least 100 yards out to hit the clean ground, and a smoothhound basically picked up my rig, took me straight into the left hand side into the reef, and it was still on there as a thing, and then I started pulling back, lost the fish completely. The fish was started reeling back in as it was coming in up over the rougher ground, and ended up losing my lead. And luckily we went off to another venue, and we come back, fished in at that time, and as we started going back to low water, went back over, picked up my lead, ideal, got me rigged back in that. And then the following session, as we come back over the top of the tide, fished it, rotten bottoms again, but sadly that never come back to pick up the bait. But at the end of the day, that's fishing. Everybody makes mistakes, and it's about learning from those mistakes. It's one of the biggest things with fishing. And over the years, you'll do things, you'll think, I'm not doing that again, and you just turn into your own style of angling. Now, going over again. So what we'll do is general bits and pieces. I'll take obviously a pair of scissors. I'll take a knife for my baiting up. We'll go through that a bit at a later stage in the episode, and we'll go into the equipment in a minute. But before that, safety. So if I'm fishing at night, I'll take that. That is the Petzl Ultra headlight. In my opinion, I've had lots of headlights over the years, and I mean lots and lots of headlights, and that there is just an absolutely fantastic headlight. It does everything I need it to do. It's very bright, it's got 3 settings on it, and I've also got an Accurate 2 battery spare, just in case the battery runs out, so I've got 2. I've also got another one on top of that then, the 4, which I'll take if I'm going over to Wales for the weekend and stuff like that, so I know I've got a lot of batteries and stuff. But then again, that, even if the battery thing, faults do happen. If you're out fishing on your own and the light goes at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning and pitch black and you're stuck on the rocks, you've got 2 choices. Try to walk back through the dark, cliff tops and that, very dangerous, not advisable. Second, sit on the rock in the pitch black and wait till the morning. Don't really want to be doing that, guys. This is definitely something that you want to do. It's a spare backup, but now I've got Princeton Tech batteries and stuff like that in there, so if I ever I'm out and my headlight goes, I've got a spare if I'm on my own. And for the sake of the lightness of it, it's just common sense, and it's just something what will save you putting yourself in all that danger. So that is basically the headlight sort of side of things. So we've got the pulley drop down rig. It's another one I want to go through with you now. Now, with someone said to me the other day about the 2-hook flapper, this, in my opinion, is one of the easiest rigs to make. It's all it is a pulley rig with an extra couple of bits. So you've got your imp on the bottom, then your bead, then you've got a bent link clip from Gemini with a £100 Gemini swivel on the end of that, and then you're going on to my trace, and then basically you've got your 2 hooks on the end of that, and then on the top I've got a Gemini pulley clip, which I don't use the double pulley clips what come with these. I can clip them straight onto my rig clip from Gemini, which I showed you before, which is on my reel now. And that there, guys, honestly, it's just simple. It really is simple, but it's very effective, and it's especially when you starting out. It's just one of those rigs which it will do everything. If you're out floundering, you could use it. If you're out bassing, you could use it. If you're out raying, you could use it. You could use it for near enough every species. It just enables you to fish a long flowing trace and keep your baits well away from your lead. It depends what species you're after at the end of the day, but it will catch you a lot of different species. So basically what happens with this is, if I clip it down, okay, so let's try and get that like that. Okay, there it is. So look at that for streamlines, right? So what I'm going to do now is clip it out. So that's going in through the air, hit the water, and boom, gone down. So what I've got, see that there now? That there, basically, get it off the ring, it's fishing like that on the bottom. So it's a lot different than the pulley rig. So it's like a pulley, but as it says in the rig, it drops right down. You can make that as long as you want or as short as you want, and it just enables you to fix a bait. So if you've got a fast flowing tide, and that's going from left to right in the tide, that rig's going to drop down, and that's going to be going like that in the tide. It's a perfect raying rig, guys. It really is. If it's flat calm, most of the time I use a pulley rig. If there's any type of swell and stuff, I use that every time. If it's rough sea, that every time just keeps it away, and it's job done at the end of the day. So that there, and same again. These hooks are very, very sharp. I'm getting tangled up in my bait cloth, but basically all I'll do then is little rig winder. So put them on like that, turn him round. It's common practice. And as I said, guys, I do apologise anybody who's watching this show who knows what they're doing with this. At the end of the day, it's the reason I've done it is for education, to hopefully help a few guys get out there and catch a few fish. And even for some like intermediate anglers, which is small lights and stuff like that, the blondes sometimes can be a species which a lot of guys find harder to catch. And hopefully with the hints and tips they've got for this, it might enable them to catch a few fish. So We'll go on to the bait elastic a bit later on. So we've gone through all that now. So that's just shock leader. So we'll go on to scales. Now, certified scales, guys, is something which, to be honest, is one thing I've actually got into through the club sort of angling, but it's something that I would recommend everybody to get, because they don't cost a lot and get them done every 2 years, and once they're done, you know what I mean, you've got them for 2 years and you get them done again. But for the sake of, you don't know what you're ever going to catch. One of the main joys of fishing. And if you are lucky enough to catch that special fish, having a set of them on you will be enough for you to be able to put that catch back and not have to take the catch for verification. And to me, catch and release is a big part of my fishing, especially my ray fishing. I have never took a ray out of the water and killed it. Never ever have I done that. Never. I've always put them back. Now, I know at times, especially with the blondes, that sometimes the fish won't go back because how hard they actually fight. But for me, I want to be able to try and do and maintain as much and look after that fish as much as possible to enable it to go back to fight another day. It's an important side of my ray fishing, and I'll never forget. And I was fishing South Devon once, and where I was fishing, it went down into low water, and it's like a little island, and I'm on this little island, I'm blasting them out like that, and I had a little spotted. And this little spotted, it was only about 4'8", little was average size, I suppose. It wasn't no specimen, but I caught it, and as I went to put it back, it come on the water like that, and it turned around and it come right back in at me, and it was just flapping on the rocks like that. Edward Bridie was with me at the time, you'll remember it. And I literally put my finger up on the top of its head and started going like that, and it was just going like that and like that. And every time I was turning it around to go back away, he was swimming back in at me and just doing that on the surface. And in the end, I had to pick it up and I put it out that way, and it stayed on the surface for ages like that, and then it just popped up his tail and went down under. It was an amazing sight, and it's one of those sights which I love to see. I love to see rays go back. When they go down the bottom, they stay there for a minute and they just kick it back off and then they go off. That to me is a big part of my ray fishing, and it goes in with the catch and the memories of it. So at the end of the day, as I said, that's the reason of the scales. You either get them, you don't get them. At the end, you don't have to get them. It's something that I choose to do, and especially with targeting those blondes, you want to know what your weight of your fish is, and it's always nice to have and weigh your fish before you're putting them back, so it's never plus side for your angling. So then, what we're going to do now is talk equipment. Now, a lot of guys will use a lot of different tackle rods and bits and pieces within their fishing. So, over the years, I've gone through many rods. Now, anybody that knows me would tell you my all-time favourite is the Ziplex HST Dymix. I mean, a very powerful but forgiving rod, which will load up anywhere you need to. You don't need to wind them up completely to get maximum distance out of them. And they're a perfect raying rod, J-curved and this class. But I used them for all the time. But once I started finding a love for the blondes, I didn't like it, because a marker was fishing one day in the rough. I actually lost a big blonde, and I mean a big blonde. I couldn't get it to it for the swell. But before I actually got it up onto the rocks below me, the swell was coming backwards and forwards, and I had it in the swell, and I didn't feel that I had total control of the fish with the rod. Now, what I'm about to show you, if I don't make these other ones fall, there you go, are the tools for the job for me. Okay, so people ask me about what I use. These rods will not be suitable for everyone, okay? If you're just starting out, you don't know how to cast, and you're finding the rods you've got a bit too much and stuff like that, these are an animal, okay? And I will say it now, I cannot use these rods to their full ability, okay? I know guys, Adam Slack, 300 yards caster, will get right into these. Now, this last year I was using them, and I've had them 2 seasons now. 2 seasons? 3 seasons? 2 seasons. And I didn't like them at first because they were a lot stiffer than what I was used to. But I started going to do a bit of casting with Adam, and where my style of casting was lead high before and very long drops and stuff, Adam basically took me back to school with it, because I had a few lessons from different people, and it really messed my casting up. So I just created my own style of pendulum cast, what used to work for me on the HSDs that would not work on these. Now, after spending a few hours with Adam, I went down to Westwood, and I was getting over 200. I think my best cast was 240 something yards, 242 yards or something like that, and that there was done on these. Okay, the M427's SUs, an absolutely fantastic cracking rod. They really, really are. I mean, it's just, it's quality, and no matter what rods you're using, you've got to have fully confidence in your rods and the brands what go with it. Now, I know full well Ziplex, Any Fish Anywhere, and Century, they're at the top end of the rod industry by far. You get the greys, you get the some of the other rods and stuff like that, which, to be honest, they're not rubbish rods, but in my eyes, you get what you pay for in fishing. And with Ziplex and Century and Any Fish Anywhere, you always get the quality. Now, as most people know, I'm a big fan of Ziplex, always have been. I've actually started to drift over a little bit because I've had a look at some of the new Any Fish Anywhere rods recently through friends and stuff, the Match Pro tournaments and the Match Pros. They are some bits of kit, and they really are some nice rods. But this is one of my favourites, and as I said, the reason I got it originally was that fact of for the blondes, and I wouldn't be without it now, honestly. If I'm going blonde ray fishing, this is what I would take. It's anybody what fishes with M427 SU, you know what it's like to fish with it. They're big, grunty rods. They take some bending, and they also are very heavy. And if you fish with one 5 nights a week, you know that you fish with a fishing rod. It's a beast. It really is a beast, and it's not for, like I said, it's not for anyone to go out there and just start buying it because I've got it or anything like that. I use it because it does everything I need it to, and that's what advice I'm going to put across. If you need to find the rod what is suitable for you and what will do it for you. So if you're looking to go out and target that sort of fish, you want to find something what's grunty with a lot of power in the butt section, but castable. So you can find that it's castable. It's not like casting a broom pole. And at the end of the day, if you're targeting blondes from like beaches or mixed ground and sandy areas and that, you don't necessarily need something like this. Where if I'm fishing off of rock ledges and stuff like that, and there's swells beneath me, I want something what's going to cope with the job. So that's the only reason I use the SU, guys, and I've brought that up with the bits and pieces because it's a question I get asked all the time, believe it or not, is what rods do you recommend? And then I'll tell them what rod I'll recommend for their thing, and they'll say, well, what do you use? And I'll be like, you don't necessarily need that. I remember one guy said he'd been fishing like 6 months, and he was asked, so what rod do you use? And he went out and bought them, and then he actually rang me up to see if I wanted to sell them. Or he got hold of me on Facebook Messenger, ringing me on Facebook, asking me if I wanted to buy them, sorry. And I already had a pair of them at the time, so I never did. But the guy went out and spent a fortune on the rods, and I did say at the time they're not suitable, but he wanted to try them. Yes, the trouble with fishing sometimes, there's not a lot of places unless you know people. It's one of the benefits of joining in clubs, because you get to meet people in different rods and that, and you can then say to someone, do us a favour, mate, I could really do with having a go on that rod. If there's any chance I can borrow it? And half the time you say, yeah, no worries, mate, come down the field, we'll have a little cast and stuff. It's one of the benefits of joining the club thing, because there's not many shops will let you go in and say, oh, any chance I can take that Ziplex out and I give it a few casts. It just don't happen. So knowing guys and being introduced to guys through sea angling and stuff like that, that is one of the main benefits. Or if you're looking at a rod, guys, and you can say like that, go on the Facebook group, a Single Events Facebook group, and say, hello, my name's such and such, I live in such and such. Anybody around here got a Ziplex Primo Synchro or a T900 or a Match Pro? Or, you know what I mean? And I no doubt there'll be a guy in that area who will say, yes, mate, I've got one. No time, give us a shout, we'll go on the field, have a couple of casts, or meet up on the beach. That's what angling's about in the community of angling, in my eyes. So we've got that. Now, tripods. Okay, so what I've got here is a Supermatch Gold Ingo's tripods, but I've got these cups on the top. Now, these cups bend in and they're perfect for what I want to use it for. I don't know if you can pick that out on there now, but see that? I can actually bend them in to fit my rods, and my rods will stay there secure. I've got the leg lock kit, so no matter where I've got going on the rocks, I know that they'll lock in. I've got extendable legs on them, so I've got uneven ground. I can set one leg higher than the other, and then I've got the cups on the bottom, and then I've got my little net, which I was lucky enough to get by Mr. Andy Copley from Seaview last year. I've been after one for ages because of the IMEX nets, the mesh nets I was after. Couldn't get one out of one of them, and he said, "Oh, here's one of them." To be honest, that's a lot better. I prefer that a lot better. It's got a Drano in the bottom, but nothing can fall out of it either. It's just, and it's lightweight at the end of the day. So this is probably going to be the most controversial part of this of the episode. Now, what I'm about to bring out, some people are going to say, oh, "Shouldn't be using that." Okay, guys, a gaff. All right, so. This is not something I like using, okay? If I'm able to catch a fish and land a fish without using this gaff, I will do so. Having said that, there is times when haven't had that with me and I've lost fish for it, and I've maybe put myself in danger when I shouldn't have, just because of the adrenaline rush of trying to catch a fish. This is something that I want to put across to everybody, that your life is not something which should be played with when it comes to sea angling. There is lots of things going on in a minute, and one of the which, and I think he's doing a marvellous job on it, Henry Gilby, with promoting the RNLI and the life jackets and stuff like that. I mean, as you've seen so far, I've got all these gear, and I haven't got a life jacket. I have got a life jacket what I take, and it's a kayak jacket, very lightweight and stuff like that. But for the sake of 60 quid, it's going to save your life. And I mean, see if you've got ones in there at the moment, and it's cheaper again. And I mean, what better thing can you actually do than pay out for a life jacket which is going to save your life? It's just common sense, isn't it? And with this, if there's a swell or there's any way when you've got a fish on and it's going near the rocks and stuff like that, you don't need that on the beach, guys, but if you've got swells coming in with rocks and stuff like that, sometimes you're going to do a lot more damage to the fish getting smacked away in a swell going up against rocks than by using that. I normally try and get it up over the top end of the fish to try and get it up to miss any organs and stuff like that. It's a simple, gets the fish out and stuff like that. It goes back, it will heal within no time. The fish, it's not going to do damage to the fish. You're not like you're going to grab it in the head or you're going to go right into the belly and stuff like that. It's using it with common sense and knowing what you're doing with it. As I said, it's an item of fishing things where a lot of people wouldn't like to it. Like, I know Ross Johnson is not a fan on gaffing at all, which is a good thing. Having said that, on this coastline, I know a lot of top anglers, and they've all got gaffs. It's something where you go out and you've got one. Now, I could mention 50 names off my top of my head. Well, I know every one of them will have a gaff, and some people look on it and say, oh, you shouldn't be doing that, shouldn't you? But sometimes you're going to put yourself in a situation where you can get a fish out of the water and get back out their swell within seconds, rather than spending 4 minutes trying to get around the rock ledges and try and get all the way just to try and get hold of the fish. And then you could be playing around with stuff like that on the rich fish. You want to know you can get to the water's edge and get up the way before any of that swell is. It's safety at the end of the day, guys. But there's a lot of other things we're going to go through, but what should we go on through now? Let's go on to reels. So then, as you can see, we have the Black and Gold 30s and we have the Pen Fathom 15s, both mag converted. Let's take a look. So then, ladies and gentlemen, the Black and Gold 30s, need I say any more? One of the best sea angling reels ever made in my eyes. I mean, the quality of it is superb, the drag is fantastic, it's very smooth. I know some of the Plymouth boys are going to sit there and go, you want to have a go on my Toe Tigers, but for the money, the everyday money, you cannot go wrong. I mean, they're just cracking reels. They've stood the test of time. I've actually got these fitted with a Phil Stairs mag conversion. They're lovely reels, very, very quick. And to be honest, if I'm going somewhere where I know they're not going to get scratched and messed up, I'll take them. Lovely reels, but I'm still a big fan of these. Now these are a Penn Fathom 15. These are battered, and I mean, some of the venues I think the rods are on the floor, they get jammed in the rocks, so I don't take a tripod, they're up against rocks, depending what mark and what I'm fishing on. If I've got a blonde on and I get up to the shock leader, I'm literally chucking my rod on the floor, releasing the ratchet, grabbing hold of the shock leader, and then chucking my rod on the floor, and then like hand trace lining it round to get down where I've got to do to land the fish. But they're very, very fast, they're very, very smooth, and I create a lot of distance when I'm fishing with them. I'm a big fan of them. If I couldn't really pick out of both of them if I'm tell you the truth, but if someone said to me, can I buy your Fathoms, I'd say no. If someone said to me, can I buy your the Black and Golds, I'd say no. I'm a big fan of both. Best quality reel, if I'm going to be totally honest with you, the Black and Golds, the Dowers, they're a much more better made reel. The drag system is 10 times better than the Fathom 15s, but it's like a Mark 1 Escort going against, you know what I mean? They're the new I don't know. They're lovely reels, and the mag on them, and they just spin. And I've had so many good fish on them. The only thing I find is a drag sometimes, really, compared to these. Got a lot better drag on them, but they're both cracking reels, and as you can see, £20 bulletproof on both of them, £8 shock leaders on both of them, and the mags there to control the casting. Now when I first got these, I never liked them. I just didn't like them out the box. I thought they were a horrible reel. The mag totally transforms a reel. You need the mag. No matter what, if you've got a bit of a headwind, you can turn it down. If you've got no wind at all, you can turn it up and let it out. And they go and fly a very long way. So that's basically the reels. So what I'm going to do now is go on and get messy. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a look at some of the blonde baits for targeting blonde rays. Okay folks, baits. So first of all, one of the most important things with baits is storing them correctly. I mean, if you're going out to Chesil, or you're going out on a rock mark, or you're going anywhere really, you need to look after your bait. It's one of the most important things. Now, sand eel, flask. You just store them in a flask. I mean, you just basically put your sand eel in this flask, whatever you're going to need for a session, put your lid back on. Anybody what's got extra large sand eels will be doing that, because they're very hard to get hold of over the last couple of years. I've not took a bit out the freezer of my larger extra large just because obviously I don't want to abuse them, but as you can see, I've got the sand eel here. So that's obviously the general sand eel, and you normally cut them open, put them in the bottom. It's job done. Now blonde ray fishing. Blonde ray fishing is, you can use plain sand eel. So necessarily those ones there are mediums at the minute. I would normally probably double them up depending where I was fishing. If I want to fish somewhere with a nice compact bait, maybe put a double sand eel on. If I was fishing somewhere on a bigger bait, just plain sand eel, I'd fit them down. Towards the end of last year and that, there was a couple of the guys what I was fishing with, because we couldn't get hold of the large eels, we were using the mediums and stuff like that, and then cutting them in half, and then using 4 eels to go in and to just a bulk amount to give you a nice bait. And it was doing the same trick, to be honest. But sometimes I like to use squid. Now, as you can see from Hooker's Baits, this is the main bag packs they do, which I think that they're perfect. If you're going away for a long session, they're ideal. But to be honest, some of the sessions I go on, especially on the evening sessions, I won't use all that, and I end up chucking the rest of it in the sea, because I don't like to reuse my bait. These are perfect for me. They're the little fun packs, I like to call them, from Hooker's Baits. And I can use that, I can mix that up with a sand eel and squid bait on one if I want, or if a whole squid on a bait, or whatever I choose to do really. If I'm fishing anywhere, well, I like to use a bit of bluey. Bluey's a never cracking bait for blondes. Some people use mackerel and different things, but to be honest, if I was going out and out blondes, the bait in front of me would be normally the bait that I would choose to take. And to be honest, it works. Storing it. So you've got I've got an Any Fish Anywhere compact, so I basically put all them in there like so, like that. The sander would be in my flask. Sometimes I'd put the flask inside like that, zip it up, I'm ready to go for ray fishing. This isn't the Any Fish Anywhere one. Some of you would say, Andy, that's a Tronics Pro. It is a Tronics Pro one. I've got another one, which is the Any Fish Anywhere one. To be honest, this is the one I bought this year to store some bits and pieces in my rig components and stuff, and I ended up using this one as well because the other one was in a van, which I couldn't find. But they're cracking for the money, guys. They do the job. And anybody would know, first of all, when they first come out, the Any Fish Anywhere actually made them, and I believe they must have done something with Tronics Pro for the design, and it's exactly the same bag with Tronics Pro written on it instead of Any Fish Anywhere. But they're cracking, they really are. Anybody that owns one, or anyone's seen them in the shops, they're worth value for money. I think I paid 15 quid for that from Seaview Angling, and it was job done. So that's basically, I'll put those sand innings in there and I'll put them back in the freezer in a minute. But for tools, so scissors, a baiting knife, obviously that's ideal. Now this here, super fine bait elastic, extra strong. This is a bait elastic I've used for probably the last 10 years at least, minimum. And it's the best bait elastic I've come across. Okay, Exeter Angling Centre, the only place that I know stock it, and there's nowhere else I can get it. So the only reason I go to Exeter Angling Centre these days is either to pick up some bait if I'm going up that way to go fishing, or to pick up this. They're absolutely outstanding, guys. If I go in there, I'll go walk in there and I'll say, have you got any more of these? Because there's only like 10 on the thing. And they say, how many do you want? I'll say 30. And I'll buy a bag of 30 of them because they're just brilliant. The bait elastic's very fine but very strong, and it attaches a bait on perfectly. And this is a big thing with when you're obviously doing your baits and stuff, because you want to be able to make sure bait presentation is a big key to catching fish. If the bait don't look good, or your baits are hanging out over the place and stuff like that, it won't work. Okay, you want to make sure that it works at the end of the day, and this enables you to put your bait on and not have elastic all hanging out of it, and it just presents a bait and makes it look fantastic. So that's what I use. Now, as you can see, the Netty towels, this is one of the ones I've won from the Netties. Anybody which wants one with the Sea Angling Adventures logo, what you want to do, guys, is start sending your catch reports, because each month Netty has sponsored our catch report competition, and you can win yourself a Netty's fishing towel with the Sea Angling Adventures logo on. How was that? Nice little competition. To be honest, guys, anybody else who wants to buy one, I would seriously go on to Netty's and have a look at the Netty's fishing towels. You'll see them there. That's the logo, as you can see there. I'll put a little tag on this video on there for them, so anybody who wants them, just click onto their link. You can see their Facebook page. And to be honest, they're doing some fantastic towels. You can have them with your own club embroidery and bits and pieces like that on it, I believe, and different designs and stuff. This is the actual clip-on one, so it's got the little clip-on, like golfing towel, so it clips onto my tripod stand, and it's black as well, which I love the black, and it does the trick. So, to be honest, we've gone through pretty much a lot of the general aspects of targeting fish. So, we're going to look at general information about catching blondes now. So, what you're going to look at, you're looking for an area to which hold the fish. So, there's no point just going down to your nearest mark and thinking, I want to catch a blonde ray. You've got to research, and the best way of research is Google, with everything these days. Bristol Channel will throw fish up, okay? The best thing I suggest you do is to go to your tackle shops, or go to your, if you're in close to South Devon, go into your tackle shops. If you're living in Bristol, go to your local tackle shops. If you're coming from far away and there's not areas to which like that, Alan Brown's just done a cracking article on Chelsea and given some information about the blonde ray fishing, and within that, there's areas all around the UK which you can target these fish. So the best thing to do is research. Now, when I first started blonde ray fishing, and ray fishing in fact, when I first started, I never had someone to educate me to say, this is what you should be doing, Andy, okay? When I first started off, I was reading the magazines, and that was my way of education, okay? So I was reading the likes of like the late Steve Gregory and Wayne Thomas many years ago with his stuff he used to do with Kevin Legg, and a lot of the guys. Henry Gilby done a bit more bait fishing back then. There was a lot of guys, which Alan Yates, I learned a lot off Alan Yates, to be honest. I remember his little articles he used to do in the magazine, and he had the little demonstration and the tutorials and that. Absolutely, Mel Russell was the editor of Sea Angler at the time, and there was some fantastic stuff which enabled you to learn back then, because when I was first started fishing, believe it or not, there was no internet. Looking that old, eh, guys? But there was no internet, so it was left like that. And to be honest, I wasn't out and out ray fishing back then. It was something which grew on me to more than anything, and reading the magazines and seeing the likes of like Steve Gregory and Wayne McEwen, and got top Welsh anglers that were doing the business with the magazines and that at the time. And you see those type of fish and you're thinking, oh, I love that, and the only way you can ever get them is by doing it and putting in the groundwork and the education and stuff like that. And I was lucky enough to go over to South Wales and, to be honest, go fishing with Steve and Wayne, who had a lot of knowledge of the areas, who took me to a few marks and stuff like that over there. That was not necessarily the areas I was fishing to target blondes at the time, but it was something which stuck with me. And I went and started looking into January was around, and to be honest, obviously we're doing the filming sort of side of things back then and stuff like that. It's no one really wants to help you out, and it was a case of having to do all the groundwork myself. So I would spend weekends up and down cliff faces, walking without a rod, just eyeing up areas and just walking and going up and down, and then something looked fishy, I would look on Google to see areas like that, and then I'd go and hit them 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 until I got the results I was after. It took me a long time to work some of the areas out, as you do, and to be honest, it's something which I've been very, very proud of, because it's an accomplishment for myself to be able to catch fish like I did. Like, I know a lot of guys which have been given it on a plate. You look at some anglers less than 3 or 4 years ago couldn't catch a code if they tried, and then obviously they've had certain individuals taking them under their wings and stuff, and turn them into the anglers they are today, which is a good thing. It's not taken away for anybody. But the point I'm trying to make and get out to guys which haven't had the education, or I don't know anybody like that, honestly, guys, the best thing to do is research. So do it yourself. Honestly, just do it yourself. Look it up, speak to the local tackle shops and stuff like that, and most of the time these people will help you, which is good, and put you on somewhere where you know that you can catch. And then all you've got to do then is take on board everything I've put together here with you, and it's all left to you then. It's a time game, guys. It really is a time game. You put enough time into the right venue and using the correct equipment and using the correct bait, and keep on hitting it and hitting it and hitting it, and hopefully one day you will have the rewards. And venues to do with blonde ray fishing is definitely down to venues and areas, because there's not a lot of areas, in my eyes, really, you can actually just specifically go and out target rays. You look at the specimen hunter one we've done with Rob York. You look at that there now. The South Devon coastline is, in my eyes, one of the best coastlines to fish for specimen fish in the whole of the UK. Okay, so you're talking everything I would say, near enough to an extent. You look, the spur dogs, for example, North Devon, you get a lot of spur dogs, and they're known for a lot of spur dogs and stuff like that. You get them over like West Wales and stuff like that. You get a few off the channel in different places like that, and normal sort of sizes. You look at the fish. This is a very rare year for South Devon, but you look at the fish in the last 10, 20 years. You see, I was having a talk with Rob earlier on in the shop, and you could count near enough how many double figure fish off one hand. Okay, off one hand in that many years. You, in the last couple of months, there's just been phenomenal. There's been so many fish being pulled off, and the reason being is the big easterlies and the chop to the sea. Now we don't have a lot of coloured water. I mean, the only time we have the water coloured up, it goes within a couple of days back to its normal colour. We've got lovely clear water down here, and that is the reason I think you started to see the spurs, because we've had that constant amount of water. But you look at most things like the bass fishing they get, the small-eyed ray fishing, the size of the rays we get, the British records come from down here, the congaree fishing. We're very, very lucky, and a lot of people think, like, I wish we lived down your neck of the woods. Having said that, it's one of the hardest coastlines to fish at the same time. I mean, the Bristol Channel is prolific. It's an easy place to fish. If you go there and you put enough time into it, you will catch fish. And I really enjoy to go to the Channel as well. It's somewhere which it doesn't take you very long to get to. To be honest, it takes me an hour to get to some of the marks that go down my neck of the woods, and it take me an hour to get to Chesil. It take me an hour to get to the Bristol Channel. I'm like pretty much situated, not local to anything really, but everywhere's a drive, and it seems to be, no matter if I want to go raying at Chesil or raying in the Channel or raying down South Devon, it's all an hour away, so it don't make no difference. But it's a time game at the end of the day, guys, and it's about, as I said, it's about learning, getting the knowledge and putting the time in, and that's the only way you gain the knowledge, is by putting the dedication and hours into it. Another thing I would recommend anybody to do is going out starting to ray fish and go into different coastline to a specific part of a coastline you don't know, is get a book, a diary. Okay, so if you go there, the first time you go there, write everything down. The next time you go there, everything down. And when I say write everything down, moon phases, size of the tide, time of the tide, weather conditions, temperatures, everything you can think of to do with that session, write down. Sea state, did you go there? But was it flat calm the day before? Was it a sunny day? Did you go there? Was the water coloured up? The baits you used, just everything you can do, okay? And then over the space of the time of you fishing that, you can look through all that book. It's what I've done, all right? You can look for that book, and there will be a pattern. No matter what, there will be a pattern. And some areas are a lot different than others, okay? But there will be some kind of pattern through that where you will see, okay, I had them there, and that matches that, and that matches that, and oh, and that matches that, and that matches that, and matches that. This, believe it or not, might sound silly, but it's absolutely giving you the knowledge and the know-how of what to do and when to do it. And you look at a lot of these guys within the UK what go out and catch all these fish, and they catch them on a regular basis. They know, it's knowledge. It's some of them, if you fancy going fishing like mate, they'll look, not night bite. You crack on. They'll go down thinking another night, I'll go down there tonight, bang, they've got them. It really is. It's knowledge is the key with all fishing, and as I said before, one of the main things about it, we're all forever learning. We have a few guys wanting us to come up and do some Holderness Coast ray fishing. I would absolutely love to. I really would. It's something I've never done around different parts of the coastline. I've fairly enjoyed going to Scarborough this year, and Farley Brig was absolutely mental. You see it in the Christmas special, and the Scarborough angling is one thing I like about this sport. Sometimes is how friendly and meeting other anglers and stuff like that. I don't like the bitchiness side of the sport, and I find that especially with what we do, we seem to be targets at times, and you've got to have very thick skin, because if you don't, it can get to you. And that's another thing with social media over the years, how it changed. There's a lot of stuff goes on and stuff like that, and what I would say to anybody is, don't let anybody get in the way of your fishing. Just concentrate on doing what you do and do it best, and over time and many hours you will seek the rewards that you're after. But that's the end of episode 1, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everybody has enjoyed it, and I hope everybody has found and took away some kind of information and education from what I put across today. At the end of the day, I know some of you might watch this and just said, oh, turned it off 5 minutes after, thinking I'm not listening to that boring git again. But it's something which we do, and I've done because it's something what I've had lots of anglers asking me to do and cover. The next one we will do is on small-eyed rays. It's another one of my favourites, and we'll try and include a bit more in that. But we'll leave you with a little music outro for some of the ray clips from the Sea Angling Adventures lads. And until the next time, when we will see you for a small-eyed ray hunt show edition. Take care, guys.